compelling detective story, a cloak and dagger action, and a romantic drama, all these stories were taken from real life. The history of Kazakhstan is inseparable from the world history. Reflections on history, our version.
The Wizard of Ust-Kamenogorsk. There are windows facing the wide boulevards. The photos on the wall are from Moscow too. There are books and diaries. Their bright colors have been familiar since childhood. These books are Urfin Jus and the Wizard of the Emerald City in different languages. Adventures and secrets were created at this desk. I don't think he became an adult until the end of his life. He always was a grown-up child. These books are so good because he was a child himself. I grew up in Rudny Altai. Snowy mountains, clean rivers, and the mighty taiga were mine. They always will be a part of me. The Altai makes me stronger. The writer always added it inspired him and made him stronger. It is a story about Alexander Volkov and his road paved with yellow bricks. This road started in Ust-Kamenogorsk. Even now, there are a lot of things we cannot understand about the Altai area. It still has very many secrets. I think that the nature, Ust-Kamenogorsk, and grandmother's fairy tales played a big part in it. Volkov was born and worked here as a teacher. Chapter 1: The Emerald Country of Childhood. There is a special dim light with reduced ultraviolet emission and free air circulation. Although the history looks impressive and has considerable weight, it is a fragile matter. Alexander Volkov was born on June 2nd, 1891 in Ust-Kamenogorsk. There is a record of it in the register. The record is here. His parents are non-commissioned officers, Milenti Volkov and his wife Salomea.
По документам XIX века прибавляется не.
Instead of 13 days, 12 days are added to the 19th century documents to synchronize a date with the current time. Thus, Volkov was born on the 14th of June, 1891.
1891 года современного летоисчисления.
There were written evidences he remembered from childhood. He narrated them himself. They included stories about rampant trips to the barracks to see his father and healthy, hearty cabbage soup with meat and black bread. Their family was not rich. His father received a salary and his mother sewed soldiers' shirts. He fished in the Irtysh River and listened to fairy tales at long winter evenings. There were treasures in the dark caves of the Altai Mountains, a vortex which could be stopped with a spell and a live haycock. I'm so sorry that I did not try writing down mother's stories, Volkov wrote. Those who were exiled from Central Russia arrived in Siberia as old believers, and they lived like old believers did. I know that my great-grandfather was very stern. The shortest way to the magic country, the country of his childhood, went through shady avenues across a little pond with water lilies. Those buds opened early in the morning and along a little bridge of wishes. The old believer's manor was built from silver fir logs. That building technique was called in-corner notch. Moss was put on the grooves. You can even see it here. Little Sasha spent summer days in a log house. After he was born, his grandfather put up with his son's decision to follow the military path. Milenti learned to read and write in the services and decided to provide his children with education. In the autumn of 1899, future storyteller Alexander Milentovich did very well in the examination and entered town school as a second former, as a reward for impressive achievements and exemplary behavior. Chapter 2, Real Treasure. The school fee amounted to 3 rubles per year. He wore a cap with a cockade, was exempted from corporal punishment and had a right to the first-class rank. These were privileges of gratitude. The main entrance door faced Cathedral Square. Now there is a Jastor Park in its space. I did not think that the 2-story brick building was less magnificent than palaces, about which I read in books. I began reading very early when I was only 4. My mother wanted my father to teach her, and I was near them and memorized letters. I cannot imagine my childhood without a book, the writer recalled. Together with Mayne Reid, he went on a journey to the Altai, participated in school readings together with Alexei Tolstoy. He conveyed his love for reading to his favorite book character, Strashila, too. Books were considered real treasures in the Magic Country. There wasn't many of them, but the ruler of the Emerald City read them with passion. In your opinion, which characters created by your grandfather resembled him most of all? I think it was Strashila, probably. A part of him was in every character. I can't say that only one character resembled him. I think if we gather all of them together, we will be able to create somebody vaguely resembling him. Books were a consolation for him. He was far away from his family during the last 2 years at school because his relatives had moved to a distant village. Books helped him to survive. He got his first job as a bookbinder. He had learned to do this job in childhood. Books encouraged 12-year-old Sasha to write his first adventure novel, or his first chapter to be exact. A book and the atmosphere around inspired him. I clearly imagine Major Likharev and his little squad disembarking on the bank of the Irtysh River 250 years ago. Waves were quietly breaking on the steep clay bank, and the primordial silence was reigning around. I remember this scene very well because I had a dream about it. I have writer's dreams which are very vivid and bright, and I never forget them. I think nature influenced him in this way. There are 2 mighty rivers, majestic mountains, and beautiful trees here. They provide imagination with favorable impression. He spent a lot of time here thinking about the next magazine issue while fishing. The magazine called My Leisure came out once a month. He wrote and produced it himself. His younger brother was the only person who subscribed to it. He spent 2 years before entering university in this way because a 13-year-old school leaver was too young to enter university. He was late for his examination because the summer was too dry and the ships could not reach Ust-Kamenogorsk. He went to the Tomsk Teachers Institute from here. He entered it and the government paid for his study. He then graduated. There is a reminiscence in which he wrote that when he became a student of Tomsk Teachers Institute, he spent his first student allowance of 16 rubles to buy books which he read under the blanket. As a result, he got a degree certificate with excellent marks for the main subjects. He was assigned to work in a small town of Tomsk province. However, 3 years later in 1913, Volkov teacher returned to his favorite Ust-Kamenogorsk, which had inspired him since childhood. Chapter 3: Helping to Forget the Sorrow. In spite of the hardships of the First World War, those were the happiest years. Volkov worked as a teacher at the school where he had studied himself. Those who used to be his teachers became his friends. They were celebrating the beginning of 1915. Actually, Ust-Kamenogorsk played an important part in Alexander Volkov's life. It was not only because he had been born there, but also because he had returned and taught there. He met his future wife in that city, and they were happy together. The People's House is one of the most beautiful buildings in Ust-Kamenogorsk. Alexander met his future wife there, and the New Year ball, he noticed a new teacher but did not dare ask her to dance with him. A bit later, when preparing for a concert, he came to a rehearsal at the city orchestra. I saw that half of the floor was painted. There was a bucket with yellow paint and, do you know who dipped a brush into it? It was a very brilliant dancer at whom I could only look from a distance. He wrote himself. He saw her and then loved her all of his life. He was devoted to her. She was the only love in his life.
Единственная любовь всей жизни.
By the summer, he had won the heart of Caleria, and they got married. This changed his life. Soon they bought a house as they could afford it thanks to his teacher's income.
Он здесь был и учителем русской
Here he taught
словесности,
Russian language and literature, mathematics, physics, and many other subjects.
и много-много других профессий.
They called their first son Vivian, and when the other son was born, they gave him another exotic name, Romuald. Volkov was the secretary of the Council of Workers and Soldiers' Deputies. He resumed writing poems, plays, about the revolutionary topic of the day. The teacher's income depreciated, and private tutors preferred to be paid with honey and butter for the lessons they gave. His wife knitted stockings to eke out a living and did her best to support his desire to write. People's memories are merciful. First you feel sad and sorrowful, but then oblivion will help you. It will cover the past with a haze and you will remember it as a vague dream or old fairy tale. Hope helps to forget sorrow. In these lines of the third original series about the Emerald City, we notice pain. His children died from illness and his brother died too. Only after 2 other children were born, the Volkovs could return to normal life. They called their sons Vivian and Romuald too. Alexander decided to do another degree. In 1926, the family moved away and later to Moscow. Epilogue. Return to the magic country. In childhood, magical stories about Ust-Kamenogorsk were in his inspiration. There was gold rushes, treasures, and ancient people who left unfathomable mounds. The fairy tale lived in his heart for a very long time.
Здравствуйте, товарищ Волков.
Hello, Comrade Volkov. Please answer me if the 4th part of Ellie's Journey to the Magic Land book will be published. I want to ask you, could you send me one book by post? I'm already 15, but I love fairy tales a lot. They teach us a lot, and I like your book very much. The boy lived in the Ivanovo region, and his name was Gennady Bakhmetov.
Ивановская область, Бахметьеву Геннадию.
Much later, such letters would be sent to him from the whole country. In 1941, the writer arrived in Kazakhstan again. He was a member of the Writers' Union and was sent to work in the Kazakh department in Almaty. Almaty, which was the capital of Kazakhstan at that time, were the center of the evacuated ideologists propagating victory.
Эвакуированных идеологов, пропагандистов победы.
He wrote a lot, radio dramas, poems and essays. However, the Wizard of the Emerald City had already won the hearts of the readers. The re-narration of the book by Frank Baum was published in 1939 and had been reprinted twice before the war. It was quiet in the Emerald City after the war. In 1946, his best and devoted friend, his wife, Caleria, died. Only my refuge was my desk. However, in the same year, the Cold War started and closed the Iron Curtain, so American fairy tales were prohibited. Only then he retired. In 1957, the characters of the Magic Country returned to his life. Starting with Orphan Jus, they became completely Volkovs. They saved him from anguish and returned him to the happy Ust-Kamenogorsk life. When I was loved, I was the happiest person. Intellect cannot make a person happy. Happiness is the best state in the world.